and you're missing AD. Now, what specifically went on in the game was one thing. However, what I saw from this Nets team, if you add all of these things back up as their whole, I actually think the Nets can win the NBA Finals at this point. And this is the first time I believed it. There was one point in this game when the Nets were up 20 points, and they had taken one less shot than the Lakers. Their efficiency is off the charts. We all know what Joe Harris can do. He's got the trophy on the wall from the three-point contest. I think this team has it in them at this point now, based on what I saw last night. It's not about not the Lakers. It's about what the Nets do.
So you're taking away a lot from a February game without Anthony Davis, Schroeder, and Kevin Durant. Kevin Blackistone, I saw you shaking your head no here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you can take away that much from a team that you just said was missing AD and Schroeder. That's two guys that play 60 minutes plus for the Lakers. That's two guys that add up to 30 points plus for the Lakers. And still, they only beat them by 10 points. So, no, I'm not taking anything away from this. Are the Nets playing better right now? Yeah, they've won a bunch in the road, all on the road. Talk to me on Sunday after they play the Clippers, who should be at full strength, and let's see how that goes. But no, I'm not taking anything more from the Nets from this game.
We will absolutely talk to you after Sunday, Kevin Blackistone. Thank you. Sarah Spain, what did you see? What do you take away from last night, Nets over Lakers?
I think I'm somewhere between those two guys. KP seems a little too dismissive for this, which now puts them at 8-1 against teams that are top 5 in each conference. This is a team that is now continuing to show up, play defense, move the ball, hit threes, and look effective against the best teams in the league. If they're able to do that when it matters most, you hope that that translates over to the postseason as well. I do have my reservations about any James Harden team that's dependent on three-pointers when you get to the postseason, because we've seen that formula fall apart before when they go cold. But you add Kevin Durant back into this, and they care on defense, which they do against the best in the league. And I am much more positive about this team than I was a couple
You're more positive, but you have reservations, which I saw you were texting us that. A group chat, she was texting us about her reservations that she has. Tim Kalishaw, how about you?
I got to say, the man in striped pajamas was onto something at the start of the show. I think this Brooklyn team is showing they have a lot of ways to come at people on a night when they don't have the best shooter in the NBA, the best scorer in the NBA. It doesn't really bother them because, by the way, Joe Harris is their best true shooter, 6 for 7.
Oh, here we go. Yes.
They got the scoring from Harden. They got what they needed from Irving. And as Sarah said, they're beating all the good teams. When they play a bad team, they might lose 142 to 140. But in the playoffs, they're not going to really play bad teams. So they're the team to watch in the East.
Clinton Yates, I'll let you pick up the pieces of your wardrobe, please.
Just going to say, for somebody out there trying to imitate my look with his own look, check the tape from last week. We love to see it.
We don't need to go any deeper on this. We'll move on. LeBron, 35,000 career points. The scoring record is one that's shockingly, somewhat surprisingly, not talked about a lot, and it's now within reach for LeBron. 1,900 away from Karl Malone for second, and then 3,300 away from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Tim Kalishaw, how important is the NBA scoring record, and can LeBron do this?
I think he can do it. It's going to take 2 more years of playing like he's 25 years old, but he's still doing it here in year 18, so he might. Now, very quickly, old man whispers he's not as good as Kareem, but we'll leave that for another discussion some other day. The point is, in year 18, he's far better than anybody else has ever been in year 18, and that was true in year 16. He doesn't seem to really be diminishing, and that's what's going to allow him to get close to 40,000 and have that all to himself.
Clinton Yates, is the all-time scoring mark a big deal for you?
Not really. I mean, in the world in 2021 in which a lot of people are born, live, and die on Rings Mountain, this has sort of been completely deprogrammed out of my concern as to what is actually supposed to matter. So LeBron James is the best basketball player of all time to me, just on the eyeball test. However, it is quite the accomplishment, certainly. So, hoping he gets to it, but it's not really going to change my opinion of him because he's already at the top.
Scoring, not a big deal for you in basketball. That's what you're telling us, Clinton Yates. All right.
No, I'm telling you that rings are things that people talk about all the time, and so as a result, I think about that. But LeBron James is LeBron James. We all know what he's capable of.
KB, how big a deal is the all-time scoring mark in the NBA?
Oh, it's only like scaling Mount Everest. That's about how big it is. This is unbelievable. I mean, and the thing about LeBron James is, if I ask you to describe LeBron James, scoring is not necessarily the first thing you're going to talk about. I mean, he's just a very consistent guy. But you know what? He he impacts the game with his scoring, just like he does his rebounding, just like he does his intellect, just like he does his passing, just like he does everything. And yet, after all these years, he's closing in on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. This is absolutely stunning. You cannot throw enough flowers at his feet.
Sarah Spain.
I'm still not quite sure if Mount Everest or Rings Mountain is taller, but when he leaps to the heights of both of them, I think we can keep praising him for this. This was a huge accomplishment because, to KB's point, it requires consistency and it requires longevity and durability. He only has to average, now only is an important word here, it's doing a lot of work, but he only has to average about 25 points a game, and he would get to and surpass Kareem by the 2022-2023 season. That's not out of the realm of possibility. Doubting LeBron James on a big accomplishment like that is as bad an idea as, going to Cancun and coming back with corn.
All right. Yes. Another.
Stop doubting him.
Okay, good. I thought we were going somewhere else with that. Kevin, you're absolutely right. It's the most shocking thing about LeBron is that this is the least thing we talk about. His scoring, really. Last word, KB.
This is the consistency that Hank Aaron had in baseball. Think about that.
NBA All-Star Game. They're moving forward with it. Take a look at what we've got so far. Durant and LeBron will be the captains. Here are the starters. And here's Adam Silver on the league having the game this year in Atlanta.
And I'll just lastly say, it seems like no decisions during this pandemic come without uncertainty and come without risk. And this is yet another one of them, but it's my job to balance all those interests. And ultimately, it feels like the right thing to do to go forward.
Of course, he said that to Rachel Nichols on The Jump, celebrating their 5th anniversary. Congrats to them. Sarah Spain, how did you hear the commissioner there?
What he went on to say is that at every moment throughout the pandemic, he has been questioned whether it was, should we play in a bubble, should we have a regular season, and now the All-Star game. I think it's a good argument for him to present as he continues to try to defend something that everybody else seems to think is superfluous and dangerous. I don't think they should be having it, but if the argument is we've been questioned and doubted before and we've managed to pull it off, then I hope that all the protocols and care that they're taking into having this game will prove them right in this case. And so we can't say I told you so, and they managed to emerge having put on a good show.
Kevin Blackistone, when you hear the commissioner say that, this is for the fans, and there's no fans there, really, a small portion of fans. What do you say?
Yeah, so it's not for the fans. It's just doing it because this is what you've always done. And if he's saying that, they've taken, they've done things to mitigate risk, well, one thing to mitigate the risk of this weekend and having people travel in is just not to have the game. And I don't think anybody would miss it. And certainly you have a number of players around the league who have been scratching their heads and saying, why are we being forced to do this? We don't want to really do it. But yet the commissioner has decided for one day we're going to do it.
Glenn Yates, how'd you hear, Silver?
I think realistically, we all knew there was no way this game wasn't going to happen unless the players just said, we're not doing it. But my issue with what Silver said is on top of that, trying to sort of insult our intelligence about what's actually happening. Atlanta is a hotspot that has been partying like crazy. The jurisdiction of the NBA telling people when to come and go is not even really the point as opposed to what's actually already happening, to which this increases the potential risk. That's what I think this is, and he's acting as if there's some other thing. The NBA is not existing outside of the place this is actually occurring, and that's where my issue is with this. This just wasn't smart and didn't need to happen, and I don't understand why he has to convince us that it should.
And Tim Kalishaw.
When you say it's not for the fans, okay, it's not for the 18,000 fans who would normally be in the arena. But for the 5 or 6 million fans who are sitting at home on a Saturday night and can watch the All-Star game and the three-point contest and the dunk contest all rolled into one, and it's not about the excessive partying and things that we normally associate the All-Star game with. It's just the game and the events. I don't really have any problem with it.
So it's a fan vote, it's a player vote, and it's a media vote. So do the fan, player, and media get the starters right, Kevin Blackistone?
I'm fine with it. I mean, look, the bottom line is when you have an all-star game is, does it really happen if there's not an argument about who got left off, who's in, who's going to start, and who doesn't? That's the bottom line, and you got an argument.
I would have liked to have seen Damian Lillard as a starter in this game for what he's done. I think that's the only miss.
Lillard will make the team. Luka got off to a bad start, but he's been great lately. The important things are the guys who don't make the team at all. We know Lillard's going to be there and he'll play.
Bradley Emmanuel Beal is starting the lone rose in the rotting carcass of a franchise that is the Washington basketball team. I'm happy for Brad. Good for you.
Taking a break right here. Buy or sell is next. Coming up, I have to admit something. When I heard the NHL was playing in Lake Tahoe, I thought they were playing on Lake Tahoe. They're not, but it's still beautiful. It's still beautiful. We'll talk about it.
Get your butt to Lake Tahoe.
2 minutes. NHL at a hamlet that appears to be built around a very large body of water, I'm learning, Lake Tahoe this weekend. Here's what it'll look like. Look, this is pretty cool, right? No fans, though,
Gorgeous.
for Avalanche Golden Knights on Saturday and Flyers Bruins on Sunday. Buy or sell this working and being worth it, Clinton Yates?
I'll sell this. By the by, there were players that were going to be skating in this very game who did not know that they were not going to be on Lake Tahoe, Tony, so I'll give you some credit there. But overall, this is happening in a national park, so you don't have the sponsorship opportunities. They had to throw this thing together very quickly. It just doesn't seem like it's worth it. It's a great idea at the exact wrong time, in my opinion, for the NHL.
To your point that players thought it too. Just because Amos do not, they do not get any points for that. So we'll move on. Tim Kalisha, buy or sell it happening this year. We've seen it at the ballparks, at stadia.
Sure.
It's been very good in some places. Buy or sell it this year.
Seen a lot of great ones. I'm going to sell this one. I also think they could freeze Lake Tahoe. Play it right over Fredo. Just have him at center ice. I don't think it's a problem. And then, but you know, the whole point of these things is massive crowds. Over 100,000 people in Ann Arbor for a Red Wings game. 85,000 at the Cotton Bowl. To do it with no fans, kind of weird.
Play it over Fredo is unbelievable, Kalisha. Sarah Spade, how about you?
I mean, spoiler alert, Tim. Jeez, a little warm.
On a 50-year-old movie, yeah, exactly.
Somebody will say that.
I think it is weird to have sports without fans, but we've been doing that, and the NHL has just as much a right to try to creatively work around the restrictions of COVID as anyone else. And I think it's brilliant to do it in a beautiful place that touches on hockey's connection to nature and them growing up playing pond hockey. It's about as close as you're going to get while still being regulation. I think it's going to be gorgeous.
And Kevin Blackstone.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've come to love the Winter Classics and the other outdoor games that the NHL has played, and, you know, I'll probably watch this one. I, too, would rather have fans, but, you know, it's kind of emblematic of where we are right now in society, right, with this pandemic. What they ought to do is build some snowmen and snowwomen and put them up as fans on the other side.
I think they're actually bringing in snow to put it around there. Look at Kalisha with a 40 on a Friday. I mean, I knew it was you, Kalisha. Ooh, yeah, you broke my heart. Buy or sell two, Jim Boeheim.
So Duke is up after that, coach, and everybody's aware of the kind of rocky season that they have had. They had a young man opt out this week. What do you make of the Blue Devils?
We flipped it around. That guy was hurting them, so they actually are much better now. Without him, he was just doing some things and keeping other people from playing that are good. So they've had two monster wins since he's opted out.
Tim, how did Jim Boeheim talking about Duke being better off without Jalen Johnson strike you there?
Odd thing to say about another team's player, but I don't think it's anything more than coach speak. Hey, we're going to play this team. I'm going to talk them up. They're better without this guy.
Sarah Spain?
To me, it feels like this is giving support to a guy who doesn't need it in a extremely well-respected coach and piling on a young man who is unpaid labor unnecessarily. I didn't like it.
Kevin Blackstone?
You know, he's not the only one that said this about Jalen Johnson.
Yeah.
LaFonso Ellis also said he wasn't a good fit down there. I'll just point this out, that Boeheim and Coach Krzyzewski are pretty good friends, and they chat a lot. And maybe he was just kind of reiterating something he had heard over the phone and seen on tape as well.
Clinton Yates?
Jim Boeheim is one of the top 10 most important people in the history of college basketball, but right now, grab a Werther, sir, and take a nap, because this sounds like an old man hating for no reason. What are we doing, man? This kid's making a choice. Let him live.
I mean, the statistics have borne out for this season, although it's only been one win for Duke since Johnson left the program. I believe he said two. We'll move on. Buy or sell three. The Celtics 14-14, and they're the 5 seed in conference right now. So Brad Stevens has been asked about whether players are tuning him out. Here's his response.
Well, the tune-out part, I don't. And certainly you're going to go through times of the year where guys are frustrated. But as far as, like, guys and, you know, our ability from day to day to coach, and they've been great to me.
And Danny Ainge also addressed this on Toucher and Rich. Quote, absolutely not. That is ridiculous. I just think that's the culture of sports and sports reporting. End quote. You people. Sarah Spain, buy or sell Stevens and Ainge here saying, no, we're not being tuned out here. The players, you know, are with us.
we people are responsible for it a lot, but I'm not pointing the finger at reporters for inventing the idea of a coach being tuned out if that's not what's being leaked from a program. I'm guessing that there is some validity to this, and that's why the angle being taken by whoever's saying that is that there are issues between the coach and players.
I go back and look at that All-Star game that you asked about earlier and look at the roster, and I see 2 Boston Celtics on the East team. All I know is that you got 2 All-Stars and you got those few victories, you've got a problem, and it's probably starting with the coach.
He told we, the people, earlier this week when asked if this is a championship team, no. That's what Danny Ainge said. And he might have said it was because of the roster, but between that point and getting to what's happening with the coach, it's not that far of a leap to think that the thing is possible. We're listening to you, Danny. So, yes, we do not
Tim Kalishaw?
You can call it an excuse, but I think it's a lot simpler. They've played 7 games all season where Tatum, Brown, and Kemba Walker were on the floor. They've missed Marcus Smart for a bunch of games. They've rarely been a whole healthy team this season.
Look at Kalishaw today. 42 points. You're just going to sit and enjoy that one.
The Godfather.
Kind of going through the
You've
tape.
never seen The Godfather, Sarah Spain? Or Godfather 2?
I have. I got to, learn how to quote it so I can get all the points.
Well, no. I mean, it's just you have to learn it for your own being, for your own to enjoy the art of it.
Business with
It has nothing to do with points on the show. Maybe it does.
This is
as
the
you're
life
losing
we
points
chose.
right now.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! This is turn of events. A basketball rivalry: Michigan, Ohio State, number 3 versus number 4 Sunday. Who you got, and what are the bracket implications? Tim Kalishaw, showdown to you.
I'm going with the slightly hotter Ohio State team, won 6 in a row. Also want to see what that does to the Big Ten, trying to figure out they've got a real imbalance of wins and losses and games played. How do they seed teams for their tournament?
KB.
No, they're not worried about that, and your winner's going to be Michigan. And it's going to be them because the big man, the freshman, Hunter Dickinson from right here in Washington, D.C., went to DeMatha. Hard for me to say that, but went to DeMatha. He's really good.
Okay, all right. I respect both. I love how you're talking about Ohio State's hotter, Tim Kalishaw, because Michigan has had so many postponed games recently. We'll split the point. We'll move on.
However it works.
Yu Darvish says he thought of something before he went to bed. And here's what he thought of. Pitchers, if they're 33 years of age or older, can decide whether they want to bat. This is his plan for DH or not. Do you like that idea, Kevin? And can you rely on an idea you thought of right before bedtime?
Absolutely, you can rely on ideas you come up right before bedtime. Jot them down and deal with them in the morning. And I like that idea. The only thing is, I would just push it up. I like pitchers being athletes and batting anyway. Can we just go back to that? Think about the best athletes in your neighborhood. They were always pitchers, point guards.
Bedtime is the best for ideas. Think of Beth Harmon in Queen's Gambit. She figured out how to beat the Russian champ laying in bed. So you can do a lot of stuff there. And pitchers don't need to bat. It's a great idea. Get rid of the bats. Get some DHs in there.
Kalisha, you really just made me very happy today. I might be the only one, but take your FaceTime, please.
All it takes is one. Big Australian Open men's final coming up with Medvedev and Djokovic. And tribute to Novak. He was hurt in the second round. Didn't think he'd keep playing. And here he is, of course, again in the finals. But Medvedev has had some had a great finals against Nadal 2 years ago in the U.S. Open. If he wins, he will get to number 2 in the world rankings. It will be the first time in 16 years anybody not named Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, or Murray was 1 or 2. That's how long those 4 players have dominated the tennis world. Be a tribute to them.
You've got Medvedev?
I've got Medvedev with the upset.
And Osaka.